Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price, $1 million man. Everybody's got a price, $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price, $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And of course, I can never do it without the man himself, the man coming into 2025, WWE legend, Ted DiBiase. Ted, we're here, man, a new year.
Oh, man, I can't believe it. It's kind of like, it's like when you were a kid, it just seems like the years went by slow because you were wanting to be older, quicker, sooner. Now I'm like, stop. Today is January the 2nd. In 16 days, I will have my 71st birthday.
Unbelievable, man.
Oh, yeah, man. Wow.
And you just celebrated a big anniversary with your wife here. How many years is it now?
43.
43.
43 years, yeah.
Good grief. Guys, if you aren't following Ted on his Twitter account, which is at MDM Ted DiBiase, he just shared a picture of him and Mel today, and then him and Mel on their wedding day with none other than Junkyard Dog as your best man there.
That's right. He was cool.
Man, too cool. What a great thing, and what a great episode we've got in store here today for our listeners. Ted, we're going to continue the story of your time in the WWF New Generation era as a manager. We're talking about Royal Rumble 1995. Brother, there was an awful lot going on during this period. Cannot wait to get into it.
Okay, let's go.
I'll remind you of all of it. Don't worry.
All right.
I saw you trying to think like, oh boy, what kind of shit was happening there back then. I'll reveal all of it. Don't worry. All right. We'll start here. Meltzer's going to report during this period that he feels a new influx of talent would be needed in the WWF as stars like Hogan and more notably and more recently Savage had just made the jump to WCW. Apparently the WWF agreed because there are a couple newcomers arriving in the company during this time. According to the Observer, one of them will start out with you as his manager. When he makes his TV debut, though, he's going to come out solo before being paired with Jim Cornette. And he's going to go by the name, Ted, of Mantar. Now, here's a clip that's probably better suited for one of our Watching Wrestle Crap episodes, but let's have a look.
Welcome back, everyone, welcome back. What is this? Don't be afraid. Sit back down, McMahon. What is this? What's it look like?
Making his way.
It looks like a half man, half beast.
Hey!
Bingo! The $64,000 question is answered, ladies and gentlemen. Half man, half beast. What is a half man, half beast? What do you call him? Mantar? Mantar, that's right. You gotta be kidding me. What does Howard Finkel do when he gets mad? I bet that little bald head of his turns bright red and it starts glowing and then I can just see, boom, I can just see Harvey Whippleman doing that to Howard Finkel. And of course, Owen Hart. Wait a minute, here's a cover. And an easy count of 3. An impressive first outing for Mantar.
So, Ted, you managed that guy, I think maybe on like one house show, maybe 2 house shows, something like that. And then they were like, okay, maybe it doesn't quite fit with Ted DiBiase. What do you think of Mantar?
Do I have to? I was never impressed. I really wasn't. It's kind of like, I mean, and even like, him wearing that silly, monster, whatever that thing was, to the ring. I mean, it's kind of like, I know that we want to attract and a big part of our audience are younger people, but there's still a large portion of the fans that are full-grown adults.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm just sorry. I think if you even asked Vince about Mantaur today, he'd say, oops.
Yeah, maybe mess this one up a little bit.
Yeah. I just, I don't know. It just wasn't there for me at all,
Oh man, it was bad, and
Yeah.
the fact that they would take you, like a legacy talent, a guy with your pedigree, and say like, "Well, let's try this guy with Ted." It's like, boy, it didn't take them long to figure out that pairing wasn't exactly a fit.
No, not at all.
Well, there's another one that we're gonna watch right now. Another interesting debut. Sorry to do it to you, brother. We've got to check this out though. This guy first appeared at live events under the name of Spellbinder during this time before eventually being renamed as Fantasio, I think, or Fantasio. I don't know. Well, let's watch the clip and see how he's introduced.
The first time we've seen. Oh! Wow, did you see that?
He turned that candle into a walking stick.
Very nice. Fantasio making his way to the ring.
His debut.
He's going to be taking on Tony DeVito here this week on WWF Wrestling Challenge.
No relation to Danny DeVito?
We don't think.
I don't think so.
He does resemble Rhea Perlman somewhat, but that's another story.
Did you?
Wait a minute here. Did I see what I thought I saw?
Smoke came right out of his hat there.
Oh my! WWF interactive game.
It's Spider-Man.
Kids, you must be 18 years of age or have your parents' permission before calling.
Hey, this guy.
Nice scoop slam, and DeVito went the roundhouse.
Atomic drop, yes.
Compressing the old vertebra there a little bit. What was
Wait a minute. Holy smokes.
He just reached in and he just took DeVito's underwear right off from him.
He reached right down into DeVito's tights and pulled off his underwear.
And they're nice underwear. They're boxers with flowers or hearts or something.
Holy man. Oh, look out.
And he just, that's Hebner's underwear,
Well,
I think.
And they're striped.
They match his shirt. At least he's returning them to him.
All right, so Fantasio is removing other guys' underwear in the ring. Apparently, that's his finish because he pinned the guy after he removed his underwear. I don't know. Removing underwear from another guy in the ring feels like more like a gold dust thing to me. What do you think?
No. I just, it's one thing to say, okay, yes, wrestling is sports entertainment, but we tried as best as we could to present it in a very believable fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know what Vince was thinking, because this is like really reaching. It's kind of like, do you want our audience to be, 5 and 10-year-old kids all over the country? They don't buy tickets.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, it was just, I don't know what Vince was thinking, because Vince is an extremely intelligent guy.
Yep.
My gosh, this was just horrible.
What's funny to me, though, is you've got Jim Ross, who is this, he was an announcer for this blood and guts territory. And now this poor bastard, he's got to put over Fantasio on commentary. It's like, man, I don't imagine that was
put him over in the locker room.
I do not imagine. All right, we can move on from that stuff. Just thought it was really funny to get the wrestle crap thing. I don't know though. I do have to ask though, Ted. There was silly stuff during your period as an active wrestler. Of course, every era of wrestling had their fair share of some silly stuff, but the good always outweighed the bad. In your era, what do you think happened in the mid-90s that shifted the WWF's creative to such weird, silly ideas? Do you think it was the whole steroid thing?
You know what, Marcus, I really don't know. I don't know. It's kind of like like marketing decision. I know he was, appealing, to a much younger audience, I guess, is what he was trying to do. Because you got a lot of little fans, that are wrestling fans, and they're going to go out and they're going to buy the stuff, the dolls and all the stuff.
Ted, I'm with you. You know, the way that that Vince was positioning wrestling during this time, kind of uncharacteristic of the way that he had been positioning it over the years, where it's like, you know, yes, some big cartoonish characters, but at least a lot of the stuff was believable. Again, I'm gonna get roasted in the comments because people are gonna say, like, well, what about the Warrior, you know, getting voodoo done to him by Papa Shango and all that stuff? Like, yes, there was still some cheesy stuff going on during Ted's era, but
Yeah,
I would say that the believable stuff was a lot more present.
yeah, yeah. It was.
Ted, William Shatner is going to make an appearance for the company in early January and will manhandle both Jerry Lawler and the roadie Brian Armstrong, who had just debuted with the company. There are also reports that Shatner was a stuck-up asshole backstage. Ted, did you get to meet William Shatner during this time?
You know, I did not meet William Shatner then, and you know, later when I would see him at Comic Cons, and he would be like one of the featured guys, you know, for autograph signing. You know, William Shatner.
Hmm.
You know, and yeah, he was pretty much a stuck-up asshole.
I've
Yeah,
heard that from a few people. Some people, like I guess Jim Duggan and his wife Deborah, have had really good experiences with William Shatner. So maybe it just depends on what day you catch him on.
yeah, it may have been, you know, because you know, but because again, I never walked up and said hello to him or anything because most of the time, you know, he was, you know, he was, you know, he was kind of like, you know, there's a certain way I act when I don't want to be bothered.
Hmm.
And, but it's not all the time. With him, it seemed like it was all the time. Don't bother me. Don't bother me. Uh, anyway,
And so
so
he just always had that aura. Stay away
yeah,
from me. So Ted, you and I have talked about celebrities in wrestling before, and how like it's okay for the boys to kind of get bumped around by a celebrity. It's really for the crowd's benefit. It's like, oh, cool, this guy. You know, we talked about Chuck Norris coming out and super kicking Jeff Jarrett. It's like,
yeah,
that's a cool moment for the fans.
yeah, yeah,
However, at this time, William Shatner is 64 years old, and he's getting the better of a couple of active wrestlers. Lawler was still wrestling at this time, and obviously Brian Armstrong is going to go on to become the Road Dogg. So he's still active. I don't know. What do you think of a 64-year-old William Shatner kind of getting the better physically of a couple of wrestlers?
Well, everybody's got a price.
You just got to do what the boss says, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you do. But I mean, you know, you know, sometimes those things can be good for your business, and sometimes they can hurt it. So I don't know.
I don't know that taking some bumps for William Shatner is necessarily going to hurt you, but I know that if I was a wrestler and I was on TV and they said, "Hey, Shatner's gonna, you know, shit can you over the top rope after beating your ass," I'd be like, "Are you sure? Sure you want to
Yeah,
do that?"
yeah,
All right. Well, I think it's also worth noting that Shatner is involved during a match between Bret Hart and Jeff Jarrett on Raw. And at this time, Jeff Jarrett is on the rise big time. He's one of the hottest heels in the WWF during this time. And Jeff is, of course, the son of legendary promoter Jerry Jarrett, very, very polished worker. And at the Royal Rumble, he's going to defeat Razor Ramon to become the Intercontinental Champion for the first time. And Ted, as we're recording this, Double J was just on TV last night with AEW and announced that he has signed his final talent contract with the company. He's still active right now at 57 years old. He looks great. He's still a polished in-ring wrestler. So, Ted, I say all that about Jeff Jarrett to say, what did you think of Jeff Jarrett as a performer and as a man?
Hey, I never had a problem with Jeff. You know, I mean, and he was, and obviously, God bless him if he's, you know, how old is he now? 56?
57 years old. And let me pull up
57
his
years
picture
old
again.
and still going. And is that a recent picture? Because if it
Yeah.
is, he looked pretty dang good.
Yeah, he's in phenomenal shape. A lot of people say he's in better shape now than he was during his WWF days. So whatever Jeff is doing, he's got to keep doing it. But man, just like what an incredible talent. And you know, it really, again, you always talk about the second generation wrestlers. That's Jeff. He's actually a third generation wrestler. His
Yeah.
grandmother, Christine Jarrett, was a promoter.
Wow. Yeah. Well, God bless him. You
I'm
know,
happy.
I never had any problems with Jeff. You know, I didn't. You know, he wasn't one of those guys that everybody shunned. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, and you know, and um, I don't know, some guys, and I can't think of one right now, but like, oh, my dad's the promoter.
Right.
You got to treat me nice. No, he was a normal guy.
So during this period, also, Ted, there's another notable thing that happened here. Eddie Gilbert is going to pass away. Eddie himself was the son of Memphis wrestling legend Tommy Gilbert, and he's remembered as one of the greatest minds in wrestling history. Everybody pretty much unanimously says Eddie Gilbert was a wrestling genius. Great booker, great wrestler. I have no idea if you've ever crossed paths with Eddie. Did you ever work with him?
Oh yeah. Listen, I worked with his dad.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, when Tommy Gilbert came to Amarillo, the territory, that's when I met him, and Tommy was a great worker, and of course, then I watched Eddie grow up and blossom, and become what he became, and I have a world of respect for both those guys.
Man, it's awful, and it was a heart failure, and due to drug use, drug addiction, is what took Eddie Gilbert.
Yeah.
And at the time, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and again, I had forgotten that till you just said it, but that was the one. I mean, when I heard that he had passed before I knew anything else, they said, somebody said, Ted, Eddie Gilbert passed away. The first thing that came to my mind was, I wonder if it was an overdose.
Which a shame that's where your head goes, but it's these guys develop reputations, and Eddie's
Yeah.
one of those guys who had that reputation. He liked to party and have fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, such a great mind and such a good worker. It's like, boy, what could Eddie Gilbert have done if he had stayed clean? I think he would have ended up in the WWF for a long period of time and had a lot of success.
That's and as a person, you got to know you got to know what your capabilities are and what they're not. I was never a booker. In other words, I was never going to be the guy who lined everything up, saying, okay, this is where we're going. We're going to start here. This is the end result, and then they work backwards from there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the programs between wrestlers. I mean, it's like, or like the program in a TV series. It's kind of like, okay, where are we going, and let's work back from there. And so, I mean, that was never my strength. I was never going to be a booker. I think Bill, Bill admired my work so much that he thought he could make a booker out of me. And I said, Bill, it ain't me. I said, you know what? I'm not that guy.
Not everybody's brain worked that way, but I mean, Eddie Gilbert's did. He was a great booker, great mind.
Well, yeah. And here's the other thing is you got to like it. My attitude was wrestling has been consuming enough to my life that I'm not going to give it anymore. I'll wrestle, and I'll listen to your presentation as to what you want to do with me, and I will give you my opinion. And and when we work something out, but to wrestle and then have to book, and you're constantly thinking about everybody on the card.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do with this guy? How can we? That you know what? Too much. Just too much. I was going to let. I didn't. It's kind of like I didn't want to go home. I'm gone enough from home that when I go home, I don't want to bring it home with me.
And honestly, I think that's kind of what maybe happens to guys like Eddie Gilbert and other guys in the same position, where it's like it becomes so much your life, you become so entrenched in it that it's like it kind of overtakes you. And I think that the wrestling culture did that.
What's your wife's name? Wrestling.
That's it. Ted, also around this time, our pal Jake Roberts would announce his retirement from professional wrestling at the age of 39 here in 1995. He's going to cite that his focus has shifted to religion. So, Ted, this sounds pretty familiar to me, similar to you and your story. Jake here, he has a shift of focus in 1995. I know that the two of you are longtime friends. Did Jake ever talk to you about this period of his life and this change that was happening for him, or were you not in communication?
Well, I mean, because it was about the same time it happened to me.
Just like 2 years after you had retired, here's Jake getting ready to retire, and also he's focused on God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was the thing. It's like, again, it's kind of like, um, I had to look at my life and go, and plus, I did a lot of, when you're young and dumb, it's kind of like you look like, because wrestlers traveled kind of like rock stars. I mean, it was like the next show, right? The next
Mhm.
party, uh, you know, and then get up and do it again.
Yeah.
And that, and you can just get caught up in that. And that's what happened to me. I mean, my wife, Melanie, the fact that I'm still married to her almost makes me cry because um, she deserved better at the time. And just to give you an idea of my wife's faith, she said, "I serve a God of restoration, not divorce." She
Wow.
goes, "And I want you to know something. I'm not doing this for you." She goes, "I'm doing it because something in my heart, for whatever reason, is telling me to give you another chance." And she goes, "You don't deserve it." And she goes, "Just know I'm doing it out of obedience to what I believe God is telling me to do." And I looked at her that day and I said, "If you'll give me this chance, I'll become the man you thought you married. I will become the spiritual leader in my home. And God willing, one day regain your trust and respect." And now, I mean, again, we got married on New Year's Eve. So we just celebrated our 43rd wedding anniversary.
Fantastic.
And brother, if it were not for God and my wife's willingness to be obedient to his voice at a time when everything else in her was saying, "Leave." And I mean, I told her, I said, "I don't deserve you." But I said, I give you my word. And I know that doesn't mean much to you right now, but if you'll give me this chance, like I said, I'll become that man you thought you married and the spiritual leader of my home. And that's what I did.
And man, it sounds like Jake was trying to follow a similar path here during this time because it's to your point, Ted. You were saying, it is. It's next town. It's next drug, next
Yeah.
party, next
Yeah.
woman. And I
Yeah.
think that, it's a lot of fans will look at this and say like, these guys, they were a bunch of degenerates out on the road and they were acting like maniacs. It's like, just for a moment, put yourself in the position. I say this a lot on my shows with Jake and Hacksaw, and maybe even on this show before, where it's like, imagine being whatever, early 30s, maybe even in your 20s. You're out with a bunch of guys all the time. The guys are going out for drinks. You see fans at the bar. Fans are offering you drugs, alcohol. You've got women coming up to you at the bar because, oh, this guy's on TV. All of a sudden, it's like all of this overwhelming stimuli starts coming into your life. It would be
Yeah.
really hard to be a good person under those circumstances.
Yeah. It's true. And I mean, that's how it happens to all of us. I mean, it's kind of like, look at all the stories you hear about or read about, movie stars who, I wonder how many movie stars have only married one person.
Oh my gosh, got to be very, very few.
Yeah, I mean, again, for all those same reasons.
Not to mention guys like Mickey Rourke or Robert Downey Jr. These guys who like really got in bad with substance abuse,
Yeah,
almost ruined their careers and their lives. Had a resurgence. It's cool to see guys like Jake, he's on the rebound nowadays. Obviously, he's had his ebbs and flows. He found God here in '95, came back to the WWF in 1996. he would have his troubles again following that, and now here he is again all these years later doing great. So, interesting story to say the least.
Yeah, and and of course, I give Cheryl a lot of credit too. He's got a good gal there, who's stuck with him.
Much like your wife, a very strong.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, if you want to give somebody a trophy, give it to my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Give it to my wife. And I mean, Marcus today. And I do think about this every time we have an anniversary. What could have happened?
Yeah.
And I could be spending my New Year's Eves by myself,
right,
without my kids, or with whoever. I don't know. Anyway.
Ted, somebody just interviewed me on one of their podcasts. It's a local guy here around the Pittsburgh area. Loves the podcast, and he asked me to come on and be a guest on his show, and I said yes, sure. So I get on the show, and he said, Marcus, you're breaking into wrestling, and what advice would you give to other young people getting into wrestling? And I said, the best advice I can possibly give you is go the fuck home after the show, because I don't think anything good is going to happen if you're going out to the bars. Look,
Yeah.
if you're young and single, then okay, maybe, but even then you run the risk of people offering you drugs or whatever. It's like, hey, what if you just go home and hang out afterwards?
Yeah Go home. Good advice, but like young, dumb, and full of
it. Yep, we've all been there. All been there. At the Royal Rumble itself, you'll get involved in 2 matches, Ted. First, it's going to be The Undertaker and IRS, and then you're going to manage Bam Bam and Tatanka in a tag team title match against the 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Holly. Kid and Holly are going to get the win, and afterwards, Lawrence Taylor is seen at ringside laughing at Bam Bam Bigelow. Bigelow shoves him, and this is going to kickstart the main event at WrestleMania 11. So pretty cool. Lawrence Taylor, big icon and a Pro Football Famer, one of the best to ever do it. Dad, rumor has it that for this appearance at the Royal Rumble, if you had to guess how much Lawrence Taylor got paid to come out there and laugh at Bam Bam and get shoved, how much would you guess Lawrence Taylor got paid for this?
I don't want to guess. I really don't want to know, but I mean, for an athlete of his caliber, who knows? $1 million? I don't know.
The estimate that I had heard is a lot more conservative. I was told that he made $100,000 for this appearance. Just come out and get shoved after laughing at Bam Bam. That was all he did, $100,000, and then he got another $100,000 for his WrestleMania payoff. So pretty decent little chunk of change for the guy.
Yeah, not too bad.
Not bad at all. Dad, let's talk quickly about Bob Holly. He is a guy that I don't think that we've discussed here on the show before. Bob has a race car driver gimmick, and he'll drive a WWF sponsored race car in actual derbies. I guess Vince McMahon is his sponsor, and he's buying him race cars. So he'll later go on to be better known as Hardcore Holly, and he has developed a reputation for being legitimately tough as nails. One of the toughest guys ever in wrestling. But I don't know. It's had a race car gimmick. What do you think?
Well, I mean, hey, everybody's got a gimmick. It's like, what's yours? So, I mean, that's it. So, you gotta, it's kind of like, well, like when Vince said to me, he says, Ted, he says, everything has been done in wrestling. It's been done and it's been redone. We've had cowboys and we've had Indians. We've done this, but he said, but this thing, he says, I'm going to do with you. It's a fresh idea. It's like, you might have some people who have flaunted, just going to the ring and all that, and what have you, and having a good looking valet or whatever the deal. But somebody who we paint this picture of, this guy is like loaded and he just throws money away. And to be honest with you, Vince threw a lot of money away.
Sure did.
I mean, literally, you know, where I was throwing handfuls of well, they weren't all $100 bills, but you know, $100 bills and what have you, and of course, Vince wrote every dime of that off as marketing.
Yep.
So,
And it is.
Yeah.
It is. And let me say too, at this age, I was about 7 or 8 during this period of time. I thought Bob Holly was the coolest shit that ever happened in wrestling. He's
Yeah.
a race car driver, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. This guy races cars and he fights people. This is the coolest guy ever. So, I mean, there was a lot of crossover, I think, for fans.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty amusing that Vince comes up with this idea. It's the era of like job gimmicks, and this guy's job was that he was a race car driver who also just happened to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
So I don't know, pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Bob would have still been active in the WWF whenever you were working backstage. Do you have any memories of working with Bob, or not so much?
Not so much. I mean, a good guy. I thought he was a great guy, but you know, I didn't have much interaction with him.
Good guy, good worker.
Yeah.
Just it took him a little bit to find maybe the gimmick that worked best for him.
Yeah.
The winner of the 1995 Royal Rumble is going to be Shawn Michaels, and to me, Ted, this really marks a change in how things are being done in the WWF. Shawn was easily the smallest competitor to ever win a Rumble, and it feels like this is a real shift in you know, from the big guy era of wrestling to the smaller, more athletic generation of guys. Ted, we know that you had worked with Shawn when he was very young, and certainly he had all of the in-ring ability. But when you see a guy Shawn's size beating 29 other guys and then getting a shot at the WWF title at WrestleMania, I mean, is there any initial like, hey, what are we doing? Or were you all on board for it?
Brother, I was all on board for it. I mean, Shawn, you know, and I, you know, the first time I saw Shawn, he was this little quiet guy who sat in the dressing room, you know, at Bill Watts's during Mid-South is where I first saw him, when he was this no-name kid who showed up. And so, but no, Shawn had it. And I mean, it's kind of like there have been people who, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's like in an innate sense with me. It's kind of like, okay, you know, it's like, you know, you get in the ring with when you get in the ring with a guy, you can tell whether he's got it or he doesn't. You know, he can make all the moves right, but you cannot give anybody charisma.
Mm-hmm.
You either have it or you don't. And Shawn had a barrelful of charisma.
Yes, he did.
And you know, I said, I don't know if I told him, but I know I said to myself, I said, this kid's going to go places. And he did.
Arguably here in 1995, the best wrestler on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
So he earned his spot, that's for sure.
Amen.
Well, we're almost at the end here, Ted, but want to hit this as a little teaser for the next time we cover this period of time. Coming out of the Rumble, you're going to be paired with Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine. This character is apparently a response to the success that UFC was having during this time. And Kama is, of course, the former Papa Shango, who would later probably best come to be known as the Godfather. Ted, Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine, what do you think of Big Charles in this gimmick?
Well, Charles was a great guy, but I wasn't really crazy about that gimmick. And I think, you know, what he evolved into was a whole lot better.
I think so too.
Yeah.
No,
I think if you asked him, he'd tell you the same thing.
I would guess so.
Yeah.
So Ted, if you had to choose, what about do you like his character Papa Shango better, or what he became as the Godfather later on?
I like the Godfather.
You do?
Yeah.
How much do you know about that kid? You know, he's a pimp, right?
Yeah.
Gimmick.
Yeah. But again, he was a heel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, but you know,
he became a baby face though, because it got over, like the idea of him trying to trade women so he didn't have to wrestle a guy. Pretty funny.
Yeah, well, maybe I should think that over again.
He would come out before his match and say, like, hey, look, you and I can fight right now, or you can just say that I win and forfeit the match, and I'll let you go home with a couple of these ladies that came to the ring with me.
Yeah, well. Maybe I should go with Papa Shango.
Papa Shango it is. We're not going to beat that, Ted. That's going to finish us up for this week. Fun look back to 1995 here. And we'll be doing it again here soon because this is the era of the In Your House pay-per-views. We've got the King of the Ring 95 coming up. A lot of big anniversaries coming up this year. So, Ted, as always, I look forward to discussing it more with you.
Well, brother, thank you so much, Marcus. And I hope you sincerely had a very Merry Christmas, and I really hope you have a very, very prosperous New Year.
Wishing you the same, my friend, as always.
You bet. And for all you fans out there, least you forget, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
We'll see you guys next time right here on Everybody's Got a Putt.